Welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Drink a Little podcast where we talk about exploring the world of wine and spirits while not letting it take over your life. My name is Kelly Doherty. I'm a joyful child of God and a certified life coach. I'm also a wine educator and a wine and spirits brand designer. I'll show you how you can navigate your relationship with alcohol and how that mindset spills over into the rest of your life. We'll learn about the world of wine and spirits together, all while bolstering your confidence that you can have boundaries around alcohol and live your most amazing life. This is episode 16, Alter Ego, and we will be doing a little tasting and explore this Margaux from France called Alter Ego. And you can only guess what that might be about. This wine is actually what they call, the brand itself calls the other self to another wine called Chateau Palmer. So this Chateau on the classic label is Chateau Palmer. And typically, Margaux is a blend of Cab, Merlot, some Petit Verdot, some other grapes get in there like Malbec and Cab Franc. But Cabernet is usually the dominant grape on the left bank in Bordeaux, which is where this Margaux vineyard is. And so this wine is actually an alter ego to its Cabernet friend from the same vineyard. That Cabernet dominant one is called Chateau Palmer, but this is dominated by Merlot, and that's why they've called it alter ego. And so what Merlot is doing is it's giving a lot more red fruit character, more red plum, more red cherry than black plum or black cherry that might be coming from the Cab. And that being said, it does have a lot of Cabernet black fruit influence in it as well, and 9% Petit Verdot. So their theme for the year, I love that this vineyard actually names their vintages instead of just like this is the 2019, which this is the 2019, but they say this vintage is called the School of Nature. And I love that. It really defines what happened that year in their weather patterns, because this is a volatile area right off the Atlantic and not every vintage is successful from Bordeaux. So this was a beautiful vintage for them. And maybe they got schooled by nature, but January had a few days like of extreme cold, and then the rest of the winter proved relatively mild. And then rainfall was sufficient but not overwhelming, because that can definitely happen there. You know, they're right off the Atlantic and there could be excessive rainfall right when buds are coming out, and that, you know, it can knock the storms that can knock the buds off. And so it really affects the volume and the quality of grapes coming out of there. But this 2019 vintage, true to its history, is an outstanding wine with supple fruit. I may have tasted it a little bit earlier for this one. It's very bold with a lot of oak, but it doesn't hit you in the face. It's not astringent with the oak. It's just very elegant and very oak forward. But I know this is truly one of those that if I opened it in 10 years, it would be better than today. That is very rare. Most of the wines out on the market today are meant to be consumed immediately. So, yet I am opening this today. I am definitely a fan of drink things when you have them and with the people you love, and not storing them up for that day that may or may not ever come. So, that being said, I did taste this one a little bit earlier, and I will probably go back and get something at the store and store it for a few years. Maybe we'll revisit on a different podcast episode in a couple of years. But let us give a swirl. I did give the large Bordeaux glass today for our Bordeaux. Usually I just do a regular tasting size glass, but this one deserves it and deserves to have that swirl where it gets the most amount of oxygen to it right after it came out of the bottle. Okay, I'm tasting this a little bit here. There's really an old world sensibility to it, which makes sense. It's very comfortable and powerful at the same time. Along with those red fruit characters that I talked about earlier, there's a little bit of herby, almost like sage or thyme. And there is warmth and comfort coming from that little bit of aging. There was some gaminess, meatiness, almost rustic. I think rustic is really the best word for this wine. It's beautiful. Um, so what does this alter ego wine have to do with anything, really? I picked alter ego because this podcast episode is dropping on Halloween. So I thought the bottle name Alter Ego was the perfect wine for Halloween, where we're all dressing up. And I could totally go down a whole Jekyll and Hyde place with this podcast, but I'm choosing not to. I want to keep it light and fun. And when I think of Halloween, this is the date that for some reason we all decide to dress up and put on an alter ego. We try on a persona and adopt it for an evening. How fun. I was at a place this weekend and people were already dressed up there. There was someone dressed up as David Bowie, the Ziggy Stardust version. There was someone dressed up as Slash from Guns N' Roses. There was a Super Mario from the video game. And there were a lot of people, I couldn't tell what they were, but they were definitely dressed up. So definitely have fun with whatever you are dressing or you're dressing your kids as. So, but I wanted this week to think about, just very quickly, think about us dressing up as different personas in our mind, just so we can play with different ways of living life. And I don't want to be too serious about it, but I want to have fun trying on alter egos, alternate lives, alternate personalities to see what your future self could look like. And no judging in this, no commitment at all, which is great. Just trying on the idea of what your future self could look like and noticing from that future self what you want to pick up and adopt today. I do this about once a year, not like related to Halloween, but I think about my future self. I take everything in my current life, my perceived current restrictions, my current good things, I take everything off the table. And I think if I had 5 alternate futures to play with, what would they look like? And this is not a worst case scenario game. This is trying on the potential outfits and alter egos in the future. There's no pressure and we're just playing. And so when you visualize some of those options, like what is that person doing? What is she doing and what is she not doing? What is she thinking about? And who is she spending time with? What does her environment look like? And how does she speak and relate to other people? It's almost like I had a coach that I was listening to, Brooke Castillo, and she said it's almost like a store. You could go in the future store and you can pick something up and you can look at it, but you don't have to buy it. You can just play with it, you can imagine it, and you can put it down. And you go on to the next thing, and you're shopping in this future store. What does it feel like when you pick those things up? What does that future woman feel like? What are the emotions she's generating for herself every day to be able to live that life? Because that's where our power is coming from. It's coming from the emotions we're generating in our lives. And I say pick 5 of these because sometimes we get so into our goals and we're just thinking about that next big goal that we already have in mind. And we can't really think beyond that if we just limit ourselves to thinking about this one self. So don't get hung up on your current goals. Look at 5 different options of who this woman is. And it's so freeing to just pick one up and play with it and put it back down and notice. Notice what feels good about one of them and not the other. Notice when you're letting that judgment come in and let go of it. Notice what parts of it are actually achievable right now with very little effort. And notice what this woman is doing and what she isn't doing. It can be fun right now, so let's not make this too serious. Write it on a board, write it in the computer, write it in your journal, write it in your mind. Just take a little time this week to look at these 5 women, to appreciate these 5 women that you have developed with the beauty of your mind, and see what you want to pick up and what you want to leave behind. Okay, that's what I have for you this Halloween week. Be safe out there. And next week, we are going to explore a red blend from California called Unshackled. It's part of the Prisoner brand of wines, their Prisoner portfolio. I'm sure you've seen these. They're ubiquitous. They're in every store. And so this one looks like a little thing where you would turn the dials to open a safe. And it's called Unshackled. So I will see you next week. And if you are working on your alternate personas, your alter egos in the best possible way, I do teach all of these things on a deeper level. I have a one-on-one coaching program tailored to your needs where we cover how to stop over drinking, how to love yourself for all the right reasons, and emotional well-being. Go to kellydoherty.com/cheers to learn more.